Well, welcome, welcome. My name is Brett Jennings, and I want to welcome you to our Real Estate Expert on Fire series, where we have candid conversations with realtors who are going from mess to success. And we have today with us Nick Kenbrandt. Nick is newer to the business in that he's only been in the business about 2.5 years. And we're going to hear from him a little bit about his journey. And Nick went from zero deals to now in 18 months has six listings at one time now and is on track for closing 15 deals this year. And so we're going to hear from Nick. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Cool. Awesome. So, Nick, let's talk a little bit about, everyone's got a different journey into real estate. So, kind of what was it that set you up for the career in real estate? And obviously, let's talk a little bit about kind of what the before real estate experts you made thousands of cold calling calls, calling expireds and for sale by owners. And I want to kind of dig into, what did that feel like? But let's start with what got you into real estate.
Yeah, so I started in the tech industry, I guess you could say. We'll see. I was a mechanical engineer. I was helping to build automated manufacturing lines for a company nearby, and I did like a lot of the work. And 10 years was a long time to be doing it for me. A lot of it too was just I kind of like the idea of being my own boss. I kind of wanted to take a little more charge, and I was having a harder time I guess climbing the ladder, you could say. And there was some management headaches, butting heads, and decided it was just time to, see if I could forge my own path. And so I jumped into real estate full time. Let's see, I'd actually started investing in 2019, 2020. And so around 2022, I was like, well, I could just do this full time. Let's give it a try. And so I got my license. And then I took the leap full time in early 2024.
Okay.
And so, uh, yeah,
So,
and
so 2024 was when you put both feet in.
correct.
And all agents choose different paths into the business. Some people go it alone, some go to a team, some go to a big brokerage, some go to a small brokerage. What was what did you decide as far as where you started, and what was your core strategy to get going?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did what you definitely should do, which is like I studied up and I really wanted to make sure I was making a good decision. And so I read a number of books and saw a handful of different interviews from people, different experts in the industry and their recommendations on how to get in. And a few things really stood out to me. But one in particular actually was the Red Book, Gary Keller's
Mm,
Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I'm sure you have a copy. Any agent worth their salt has probably read it or is at least familiar
yeah,
with it.
got to read
Um,
this one.
yeah, for sure. And so that was one, and there were a few others, but that's probably like I would say the Bible for if you want to be a good agent. Um, but um, but one piece of advice that stood out to me was like someone told me, hey, your broker, most brokers aren't going to be helpful at all. Most are just, they're there to collect your desk fee or whatever your check is, and they're not going to provide resources. Don't depend on your broker at all. And so that really stuck in my head, and I took that a little too far, and I read it the wrong way. I
Hmm.
read that as in, well, brokers are useless. I I can do it all on my own. I don't need this guy's help. I can do this, whatever. And so I ended up getting into a coaching program, which was great for me. And their lead gen pillar was really calling. And they were in particular were focused on expireds, calling for rent by owners, for sale by owners, absentee owners, etc. And mastering the cold call script and also from there mastering just the listing presentation. And I think it was great. Like I'm really glad I did that. Um, the challenge was, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Um,
So what happened? How long were you there, and how long was it? So, and how I think you and I talked. Was it a year you were there? Close to it? Yeah.
yeah. So I jumped in full time. Well, I'd been making some calls on and off during lunch hour when I was still working, and at a certain point, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this full time, like if I'm going to do this, I need to do it full time and really commit.
Yeah.
And so I jumped in. Let's see, I think it was April 2024. So it would have been about 8 months or so full time, trying to forge my own path. I was at like a boutique online brokerage. There were like no fees. The split wasn't great, but there was just I was like, hey, I'm not paying anything a month.
Yeah.
This is fine. I can coast for a while. And so it was really 8 months of like
Just
nonstop
grinding it out.
calls,
Wow.
calls, calls.
And so what for somebody to persist like that for 8 months, were you actually getting some appointments or what ended up
Yeah.
what yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was good. I mean I knew going in, like I knew it takes a while to get the flywheel moving. And I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. And so I was expecting, I just kind of did my own version of the real estate model or whatever you want to call it. And found out that if I'm making like 20 conversations a day, then I can, you know, parlay that into roughly 1 to 1.5 deals or so a month. And so, the math kind of worked out where I needed to basically make 200 dials every single day. That would get me my roughly 20 connections. And when I was doing
Conversations.
that, I was getting about 1 to 2 appointments a week for,
Okay.
which isn't like a lot, but for a new agent cold calling, like
Yeah.
it's not bad, right?
That's not bad. Yeah. So
Um,
so 1 to 2 appointments a week. You do this for 8 months. You're grinding it out, and what became of that as far as like clients and
Yeah, I mean, I had a few clients. I was doing okay. But at the end of the day, it was just it wasn't going anywhere. And I think for me, the thing that I really, really needed was I needed more support. I realized,
got it?
first of all, I was only doing one like real lead gen pillar, which is just the calls. I wasn't doing any sort of farming. I wasn't doing open houses, no door knocking. And so I think that was a lot of it. But I think the other part of it was I was lonely. Like I was just in my office, and
Mm,
it was just really hard to like keep the energy and the spirits up and the confidence up. And like,
yeah.
if you're not feeling confident, like you're wasting your time. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the appointment, but if you don't have the skills yet and you don't have the confidence, it's really hard
right.
to convert. So did that end up being one of the challenges? Was like, okay, I can get the appointments, but
Yeah. 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 And after a while, I think by the end I had done some probably like 20 or so appointments, mainly like listing presentation type appointments. Part of it was my listing presentation wasn't as honed as it is now that I'm, on a team and we're role playing it. We've practiced it and I've been mentored by someone who really knows what they're doing. So that's definitely part of it. There's some of the mechanics were lacking. But once you stacked up like 20 listing appointments and you haven't gotten any listings and you're looking like, okay, well, my whole model depended on like about one in 3 to 1 in 2 listing appointments should convert. And that just wasn't happening. And I had at that point enough like appointments to know, okay, this isn't working. We got to switch it up. We got to make a change. And so that's when I started looking out. And that's actually when I stumbled on you guys.
awesome. So yeah, that was curiously, what did you have a clear sense of what you were looking for when it came time to find your next home? Because I remember when you and I met and we talked about your journey into real estate. You're like, yeah, I went to this coaching program. I've been making all these calls. I've even set some appointments and it's just not happening. And I was like, you're making how many calls? You're doing what?
Mm.
Like, oh, you could plug in and be successful here. So what did you know, or did you know what you were looking for when we crossed paths and you came to real estate experts?
Yeah, I mean, I knew, I mean, one of the things, I'll go back to the red book. One of the things Gary Keller talks about, it's like one of the first lessons is he says aim high. And so I was like, okay, well, let's aim high. I want to do 50 deals a year. I want to at least develop the skill set to be able to do 50 deals a year. And maybe that's probably me leading some, team or something at some point in the future. I don't know. And maybe 50 deals a year when I get there is too much and I want to scale back or something. But ultimately, you need to build the skills. Lateral movement's a lot easier than vertical movement, right? And so I knew I needed somewhere where I could have mentorship, and ideally more support for some of the ancillary functions that I wasn't doing great at, especially in particular marketing, which was one thing that
Mm,
really attracted me here. But I was also looking for just accountability and for a group of, ideally experts in in the business who are motivated and working hard to grow. And so that was really what I was after.
Awesome. Um, so you got in, you joined real estate experts, you come over
Mhm.
here and you start applying some of your work ethic formula to adapting. Now you're doing some role play, you got some lead generation going. And now let's fast forward to today, six listings.
Yeah.
You have six listings going, and actually you just got one into contract yesterday. So congratulations on that. You had another one
Yeah.
close. But what do you think made the difference there, from being able to have do that activity and not get the results, and now to do that? And I don't know, you're not still making 200 calls a day anymore, are you? No, right?
No.
So to be doing much less effort and getting far greater results, what do you think are the two or three things that really changed the picture for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one was just joining a team.
Mm.
Just it's when you're around other people, especially like successful people. I mean, like we have partners on the team that, we have an agent on the team who she only does listings and she does tons of listings and she gets buyers and she just doesn't have the time or like that her business isn't oriented to servicing buyers. And so it's like, hey, now I'm on a team and I get the opportunity to service some other listings. So that's one aspect. But then the other aspect is like I can bounce ideas off of people. And as a new agent, when you really don't know, like, I mean, everyone who's been in the business knows that first like deal or two, you're just like, what is any of this? So, um, so having that guidance and mentorship as well. And then I think like open houses was a huge aspect of it too, because I didn't do any open houses at all before. And then all of a sudden I think I ended up doing something like 40 last year total, which isn't like loads. And I would like to do more, but
Yeah.
that ended up getting two deals out of that. And so just on top of, and I do still call for rent by owners in particular, like that's one of the babies that I kept from my previous kind of year of hell. But so now I still am making these calls, but now I'm also adding in just ancillary business supporting some other agents, and now I'm adding in open houses, and then also a lot more digital farming and soon to be even more farming. But yeah.
Cool. Cool. So the main things that changed was one, open houses became a major lever for you,
Mhm,
right? So
absolutely.
you're meeting feet on the street buyers, supporting other agents and ancillary business, meaning helping, like partnering with agents on deals.
Yeah, yeah, and hosting their open houses, door knocking for them, partnering them on deals. Yeah, all of the above.
Sweet. And then what are your best lead generation sources to date?
To date, well, I have actually ended up servicing a lot of company gen leads this year, so that's been good. Oh, the other thing I actually forgot to mention is SOI. I was hardly touching my sphere of influence at all.
Hmm.
And I mean, a couple of my best deals have been through SOI. And so I think that was another part was just like, you know, getting over the fear of like having the conversations with friends and I because I was worried about being that annoying guy, but like now it's natural and it's who I am. It's the work I do. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that was a big aspect of it too. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I forgot where I was going with this.
Oh, the lead sources, where they came from. So we
Yeah,
started talking about open houses, the ancillary business, and then you
open
mentioned
houses. Yeah.
SOI was one that you weren't focused on.
Hmm.
What changed for you? And this is something I want to point out, because a lot of times agents, when they get into the business, they're afraid to reach out to their SOI because they're like, oh, I don't want to be that annoying guy, or oh, I don't quite know enough yet. Like I'm not really that experienced. What was it that got you into communication with your SOI? A plan, a program, a mindset? What helped you, start tapping your SOI and then increasing your business from your SOI? Because that's typically what we see. People come here and they
Yeah.
double or triple their SOI business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was worried that what I was going to have to do is call every single person in my database and be like, hey, I'm in real estate now, blah, blah, blah. And I did do some of that. But for me, every time I got asked by anyone, like, hey, how's it going? Like, I started just bringing up, like, oh my gosh, I just got into this contract or whatever at work. And then, naturally opens up and I'm not like, forcing it, you know what I mean? Forcing the door open. So that was part of it. Also just being a little more active on social media. And I also started, so I do community theater in the area, and I started running these like ridiculous ads in some of the theater programs. And so like now it's like people know and they kind of bring it up to me versus me being the awkward one like trying to force a weird conversation about real estate no one wants to have. So like those are a few of the different ways. Yeah. But
Awesome.
you do have to kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit because you are going to have some awkward conversations and you got to learn how to navigate them. I mean, that's the business.
You do, you do.
Yeah.
So let's rewind back on the numbers. I think we talked about this today, like where you started a little over a year ago,
Mhm.
and how many deals to date?
Well, so a year and a half ago is when I started at Rex, Real Estate Experts. So my first year I did zero business, zero. Then last year I did six deals, which, you know, I was hoping for more. It's kind of a slow year overall in the market, so I don't feel too bad. But for a first time agent, like I'm pretty happy with that. This year so far, we're halfway through the year. At this
You
point
got
last year,
you got six
I've
listings.
yeah. At this point last year, I had one listing and I had two closings. This point this year, I have had four closings and I have five listings and I have three buyer clients. So yeah, I think
What's the 2026 goal then?
well, the 2026 goal is 15, which I think we
15.
can do. I think we can
Yeah.
do. If everything in the pipe closes and we get just a few more on top of that, we're there. So we're on track.
We're only on the middle of the year, so I think you're
True.
there. That's awesome. How would you describe yourself as an agent today versus who you were a year ago calling, or I guess a year and a half ago, calling cold calling expireds and things like that? Like, how would you describe yourself?
Way more confident and also way more like I don't I don't want to say I don't take no for an answer. That sounds kind of bad, I think. But what I mean is like I've now had some experiences where now I'm like passionate to the point where I like really stick up for myself. Like now when I hear about a buyer and they're like, "Oh, you know, I hear what you're saying, Nick, but this other buyer agent's offering a 1.5% commission." Now it's like, no, don't do that. Not even because of me, but like that agent doesn't know what they're doing. Like, if someone's willing to cut their commission, that's because they're probably a hobby agent and they really don't know what they're doing. And if they're not willing to negotiate on their own behalf to negotiate their salary, they're not going to negotiate for you, my guy. So, like,
Yeah,
and now I've seen it enough and experienced it
yeah.
enough myself that, like, it's like, it immediately sets off alarm bells. And I think that, like, confidence and passion I think people pick up on that, and it's definitely turned some you know people who were walking away. It's turned them around. So
That's pretty awesome. And what that is, I mean, we talk about it in our core values. It's really being client first, right? You
mhm.
Because you care, you
Right,
actually want them to have a great outcome, even if they don't work with you. You're like, look, whatever you do, don't do that. So
yeah,
that commitment or conviction comes through, and people feel that
hmm
when you really care, and that is central to what we do. Let me ask you this: so you've come from this journey, right? Really hustling and grinding, getting little to no efforts in your first 8 9 months. You shift venues, if you will, you shift brokerages, you come in here and you add a few lead generation pillars, right? Because you just were quite literally, we'll call it a one trick pony. You're making calls, calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, and weren't getting the traction. You added sphere of influence. You put yourself in the mix of sharing and doing some deals with other agents
hmm
in that you talked about, as well as adding open houses. And that really has now more than, well, you went from zero to hero, I'll call it. Uh, what would you say to an agent out there right now who's making the calls, doing the work, and not seeing the results? Like somebody who was exactly where you used to be.
yeah. I mean, I think like environment has got to be the number one thing. Like so the first question I'd ask is like, are they doing what I was doing, which is like sitting in a basement alone making calls? Because like if that's what you're doing, you're gonna have a really hard time. So I'd ask like, I mean, I would see if it's possible for them to possibly like join a team. But you really need a better environment, especially mentorship. I think, because if you don't have those things, I mean, you can have all the drive in the world, but if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to end up where you need to be. So that's where I'd start.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for taking the time. We're excited to hear about your story, see your trajectory from where you've been, where you're going, and where you will go. Because at the current pace you are, the sky is the limit, and before you know it, another year or two, you can be at this 50 unit aspirational goal that you started the journey with. So,
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in, and thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
All right, have a great one.